This is Mastering Your Wealth with David Gagnon, the podcast.
I ran across an interesting article here from Yahoo Life. It addressed condiments that can make you sick if they are past their expiration date. Some of these not going to surprise you, of course. You know, mayonnaise, right? It contains raw eggs. That obviously bad combination there. Creamy salad dressing can easily spoil once open. And then you have pickles and brine. If you have that, watch out for cloudiness. And it got me thinking, just as much as things, go expired in the refrigerator and whatnot, there's got to be some expired strategies when it comes to a retirement plan. David, can you give me some examples of that?
Well, first of all, I can relate to the pickles and brine and getting you sick because a few years back, I got a bucket of pickles that were made by the local deli, and they were homemade. I love pickles. Well, sure enough, I got food poisoning after I opened that up, and it was bad. It was bad.
Yikes.
But yeah, so any case, yeah, in your planning areas, I mean, you have to look at some things that are kind of cookie cutter pieces of advice that doesn't work out so well for a lot of folks. And one of those areas is the 4% rule. If you look at some of the information that's been out there for a long time, and what that's really referring to is if you are going to retire, if you want to try to make your money last throughout your retirement years, plan on only distributing 4% of the value of your nest egg. Well, that doesn't work out so well if you haven't saved a lot of money, right? And, everybody's 4% amount's going to be different. And what's going to happen is it's going to force you into living the lifestyle spending that could only be at that level of spending. So if you get to retirement and you have $1 million, right? If you can pull off 4% or $40,000 a year, and if you're taking Social Security, if that's more than sufficient to keep you happy with your spending needs and do the things you want in retirement and be able to afford it, that might work out okay. But what if you've only saved maybe $500,000 and now you retire? That 4% is now $20,000 a year. And if you add that to your Social Security, maybe that's not going to cut it, which means you're going to have to take a higher distribution rate or find another way to make your money work harder so you can get more income and minimize the risk of running out. So, that is so cookie cutter. I'm not a fan of any of the cookie cutter things that are out there. We always personalize and do strategic planning, but it's something that people are hearing all the time. Unfortunately, it's going to work out for some and not for others. And you don't want to figure this out when you actually retire and you kind of were relying on that 4% distribution rate, and it's not going to work. A lot of people think they have a specific dollar amount that they can retire on, but one of the things that they forget about is inflation. Inflation is a big factor that you have to look at long term to see if what you're doing with your money is going to work out okay and how long you're going to live. You're going to only live, in your mind, only 10 years in retirement. It's a big difference in your financial decisions compared to somebody that might live 25, 35 years in retirement. And so there's a lot of variables that people have to really take into account that really should be aligned personally in their planning and objectives.
There was a new report from the U.S. Surgeon General that says alcoholic drinks should carry warning labels about cancer risk. It found that alcohol is the third leading cause of cancer, obviously behind tobacco and obesity there. The recommendation has garnered serious attention, obviously considering the source here. And, it got me thinking about considering the source, who to trust. And we're supposed to trust the words of a financial advisor, somebody like you, David. But what are some of the signs that maybe you hired the wrong one? Because let's be honest, there's some scammers out there.
Yeah, I mean, in our industry, everybody kind of uses the term and labels themselves as a financial advisor, but you really have to get better clarity as to what is behind that for that particular person you might be interviewing to work with. And there are folks that are purely licensed only to sell investment products in the securities business, or there are folks that are only licensed on the insurance side of the industry and can only sell you insurance products. But here's the thing. If you're looking for real planning, you have to have somebody that can look at the big picture. And there's a lot of complexity in the world of money, in the world of tax, in the world of investments. And you really want to really find somebody that can do a comprehensive analysis and then help you make decisions based off analysis and data, and align that with what you really want to accomplish personally and your goals and objectives. And let's talk about some of these moving parts that somebody needs to evaluate to bring it all together. Because if you're doing a great job with your investment plan, right, you have an investment advisor, but they can't help you in optimizing your decisions on when you should take your Social Security and what strategy you should use, they're costing you money because they're not helping you in that area. It's not their fault. That's just not how they're wired in the business. They're there to manage your investments. Same thing with an insurance agent. And so what we really want to get people to understand is, if you want to make great decisions in all the areas that can optimize and build efficiency with your financial resources, you have to make good decisions on how do you optimize your Social Security. If you have a pension, that's a different strategy that has to be optimized and maximized, because there's different ways to take advantage of your pension choices. Your income distribution plan when you retire, probably the most important component of a successful retirement plan, and it's got to be strategically aligned with you personally and what you need to spend. Your tax strategy. Coming from a tax background and being licensed to provide tax advice, that is a huge advantage if you can find somebody that can put you into a plan that's going to lower and greatly reduce your taxes in the future, not defer it. Your investment strategy should be aligned with your objectives and needs and tolerance for risk. And then your estate plan, and then your out-of-pocket healthcare plan. This is something that we work on cohesively and comprehensively for our clients. And if you're listening and you're not getting answers in these other components of your financial world, there's something that's suffering, and don't even see it. It's in your blind spot. It's costing you money. And so these are what I refer to as your wealth transfers that occur unknowingly, unnecessarily. And if there's a lot of those going on, you're going to have to take a lot of risk in your investments to overcompensate for these expenses and these wealth transfers that you don't see. So when somebody's shopping around for an advisor, maybe they just want to invest a CD that matured, and that's all they want. They want to get a safe return someplace. Then maybe you talk to an insurance agent and they'll sell you a fixed or indexed annuity. But if you really want to get a plan and have clarity as to what you need to do today and every decision going forward and work off of a plan, we validate our advice to our folks when we put together their plan. When I see the details of their analysis, then I know how their money should be invested to lower their risk, increase their yield or income that they are going to need to achieve their income targets, how to build in a plan that's got buffers for market losses, and also hedging against out-of-pocket health care with some strategies that are built into your plan. Have an income you can't outlive, very low risk, very tax efficient, and then make sure we have an estate plan that's integrated with your financial plan. And so this gives people a lot of relief when they see this plan completed and they've been educated along the way, and we can show them in their numbers when they make their decisions what problems we address that we could identify in the details of the analysis, and what solutions we're providing to make it all work in a better way with a higher probability of success.
And I think really that's what everyone's looking for, is to have that confident retirement, right? To have all their ducks in a row. And also something important, folks, I always say this, everybody's situation is different. So you're going to have that custom plan when you sit down with David one-on-one. So I know it can be overwhelming and daunting and stressful and all these things when it comes to talking about your personal finances, not to mention this is your literal life savings for the rest of your life. How do you make sure you plan that efficiently? And David, for those that are thinking, all right, let me sit down with David. I've been listening to the show. He's got over 30 years of experience. He's obviously somebody that has had a great impact in our community. You've been here for a very long time, helping lots of people retire, make this decision. What is that first meeting with you like?
Well, I'd like to have a phone conversation, or if somebody wants to come to the office, because what's great about that is it gives me a chance to kind of get a sense as to what people are concerned about, what their experience has been in the past, what have they done that they liked, what have they done that they haven't liked, and where do they want to go from here as far as their planning goes. And when do you want to retire? What are your dreams in retirement? What do you want to accomplish? Because all your dreams, there's a price tag to it. And then what we'll do is we'll have our paraplanner, Frank, send an email with the instructions on how to get into our planning portal to give us the information we need to compile that comprehensive forecast outlook with what you're presently doing. And when we get to that point, now we can see what lies ahead. Are you going to meet your retirement goals adjusted for inflation and taxes? Are we going to need to kind of plan out and model certain things that you have as far as on your bucket list? So if you want to take a vacation for the next 10 years and budget 10 grand or 5 grand or whatever the number is, let's see if it's going to work. And if it's not going to work financially, then we have to put our mind to the equation here and put together some solutions and strategies to make it happen. And it comes with planning, because if you're not seeing this in a plan and making your decisions off of a plan, then you're going to derail your plan at some point in the future, possibly. And at a point in time, you can't fix it, right? So, having that conversation and letting the folks find out who we are, how we work with folks, how we onboard you, and what we do going forward. Because when we put together a plan and you become a client, we keep revisiting that initial structure of the plan from year to year and keep tweaking it and keep modifying it and make sure you stay on track, because so many things will change in your life. We have tax laws changing. We have the investment world, your spending needs, your health, which costs money at some point. Family dynamics come up and surprises come up where you might have to help a grandchild or a child. So we want to be able to make sure we can help you pivot at a time of unexpected events and make sure your plan is stress tested so that you can absorb that without any big surprises or high level of anxiety to try to overcompensate for that. So get to know you type meeting first. It gives me some background on what they've done and where they need to go.
A young woman, a young mom, by the way, her name is Kylie Bowler. She lives in Arizona, very close with her grandfather who passed away. She says she was really surprised to learn that her grandfather left his entire estate to her.
Context, I am the youngest surviving family member for my grandpa. My mom, my aunt, his sister, his niece, and my 2 older brothers all are older than me, but he made me the sole beneficiary for everything. Although obviously this was a really big thing to help me for the future, my entire family kind of resents me. And even my mom, who I had a pretty close relationship with at one point, she's not a fan of this and she doesn't understand why these changes happen.
And this is something, David, that you see every single day. You've been doing estate planning, again, for nearly 4 decades here. And I feel for this young woman, right? I mean, you had a close relationship. Obviously, the grandfather felt like, hey, I should leave everything to her. Lo and behold, this young lady didn't know that. And now the whole family is, sounds like, pretty much against her. And again, I know you're well-versed in estate planning. What would you recommend somebody do to avoid kind of, I guess I want to say secrets, because nobody knew this was going to happen, and family fighting? I mean, what's the best way to start this conversation with your family about your estate?
Well, I'll tell you, I'm right in the middle of a family mess right now with this exact situation where an uncle actually had no children, and but had some nieces and nephews and extended families, left all his wealth to one niece who actually took care of him and watched out for him for many years. And when he passed away and that niece's children found out that she had this money and her siblings, now they're all looking for handouts. And they assume that she was getting more than what she really got, which is not good, because now their expectations are unrealistic. So we're working through that with some dialogue. And first of all, we've been planning for her for a while with her resources. And now that she inherited this money, we need to make sure she's going to be okay, but help her kind of get through the emotional side of what she's dealing with, because it's very stressful for her, because she doesn't want to see her relationships go sour with her kids and her brother, because they've always had great relationships. And I've seen this over and over again. Money will change people on a dime. At the end of the day, when people are doing their estate plan and they have kind of a overweighting of who they're going to leave the money to, and a fairly decent-sized family, I think there's got to be some communication before that person passes away as to the reason why, possibly, that he's done this, or maybe, have discussions with the family and maybe come to a more amicable distribution. There's so many different dynamics in any family situation, and you don't know why one person is going to make this decision to leave all their money to one person when there's many family members involved. And so I think it comes down to communication, because that really puts this young girl in a very bad way with the family, and it wasn't something that she ever asked for or was ever expecting. So I think it really has to come down to families getting on a page of communication, just so they know the what-if scenarios. If something were to happen, what the plans were after the death of this person who was ever going to leave the estate. Because I think if there was some discussion beforehand, I think he probably might have done things differently so that this young lady would not have been in this kind of situation and sever family relationships as a result, possibly. So communication's key with families. And we've gone through this with a number of families over the years where we've put together the estate plan for the parents, and we've had the children come in, the adult children, and we kind of laid out how the plan was set up. And they gave us some feedback as to what their concerns were, if any. And it was well worth that, because now everybody knows what to anticipate or expect. And so when that person passes away, everybody's still on the same page and everybody gets along. So communication, I think, is key.
For more details or to sit down with David for your complimentary financial GPS, visit masteringyourwealthradio.com.
Investment advisory services offered through Brookstone Wealth Advisors, LLC, BWA, a registered investment advisor and an affiliate of Brookstone Capital Management, LLC. BWA and First Financial Planners are independent of each other. Insurance products and services are not offered through BWA, but are offered and sold through individually licensed and appointed agents.
Information provided is not intended as tax or legal advice and should not be relied on as such. You are encouraged to seek tax or legal advice from an independent professional.
Any comments regarding safe and secure products and guaranteed income streams refer only to fixed insurance products. They do not refer in any way to securities or investment advisory products. Fixed insurance and annuity product guarantees are subject to the claims-paying ability of the issuing company and are not offered by Brookstone.
David Gagnon and First Financial Planners are not affiliated with nor endorsed by the Social Security Administration or any other government agency.
Registered investment advisors and investment advisor representatives act as fiduciaries for all of our investment management clients. We have an obligation to act in the best interests of our clients and to make full disclosure of any conflicts of interest. Please refer to our firm brochure of the ADV 2A Item 4 for additional information.